Hey everyone, let's get right into it. Sometimes history feels like it's settled, like everything is already explained. You're told what happened, roughly when, roughly why. In late 19th century London, there was a series of unresolved deaths. They happened close together. They worried the public, and they were never solved. The person responsible was never identified, despite witnesses, despite letters, despite the newspapers reporting every troubling detail. Over time, the case became symbolic, a story about the limits of policing, about poverty, about a city that was growing too fast to control itself. That's the version most people know. But there's something curious about it. Even when the story is complete, it leaves small spaces unaccounted for. And sometimes, those spaces make you pause. What's strange is how one name keeps appearing on the edges of the story. Not in the police files, not in the arrests, but in conversations, in letters, and in the art world. A respected artist, connected, someone whose work returned again and again to the same themes. Rooms, beds, people in quiet, tense situations. On its own, it might seem normal. Artists explore dark subjects all the time. But this one detail doesn't quite sit right. His paintings weren't just abstract darkness. They captured specific, intimate scenes, not imagined from newspapers, more like observed. And once you notice that, it's hard to stop noticing it. The artist was Walter Sickert. He was famous in his time. Trained under James Whistler in his London studio. Exhibited across Europe. Movable in high social and artistic circles. But he avoided heroic scenes or grand landscapes. Instead, he painted interiors, small rooms, private, tense moments. Picture this: a dim bedroom, a woman lying on a bed, a man nearby, half turned away. The scene is quiet, nothing dramatic is happening, but there's weight. One of his most discussed works shows exactly that. No injuries, no confrontation, just aftermath. Importantly, Sickert named the painting the Camden Town Murder. Make of that what you will. But some people think the painting resembles the scene of Mary Jane Kelly's final hours. This is widely regarded as the only case that happened indoors. Sickert also had a fascination with crime. He had a strong curiosity with the more unusual side of things. He read about incidents, discussed them, collected newspaper clippings. At one point, he claimed to have rented a room used by someone involved in the most serious crime. Whether that's true or not is unclear, but it's an unusual thing to say if you don't mean it. Notice how his paintings don't shout. They just sit there, almost waiting. Each piece on its own could be dismissed. An artist paints dark themes. An artist follows sensational news. An artist depicts uncomfortable moments. But place the details side by side. Patterns start to appear. Timing, locations. Focus on women in confined spaces. The emotional distance in the figures. Faces obscured, turned away, shadowed. Some compositions resemble descriptions from real crime scenes. Not exact, more posture, arrangement, mood. Then there are letters. During these events, police received hundreds claiming to be from the person responsible. Many were fake. Some weren't. Years later, researchers noticed that the handwriting, phrasing, and tone in certain letters bear resemblance to Sickert's own correspondence. Not matches, not proof, just similarities. Later DNA tests on materials didn't identify anyone for sure. But some people have claimed the DNA found on some of the letters may have contained Walter Sickert's DNA. Individually, these points are small. Together, they form a shape you can't quite ignore. Not a solution, but a pattern. Now, think about ordinary people back then. A Londoner reading papers, hearing rumors, seeing illustrations of troubling events. You wouldn't have the full picture, just fragments. Concern, curiosity. Now, imagine being an artist in that same city, sensitive to mood, watching people react, observing silence spread. Would you paint it? Process it visually? or notice things others missed. From a modern perspective, it's easy to come up with theories about the past. But Sickert wasn't a suspect. He was a painter. People found his work unsettling, yes, but also modern, fashionable. No one visited galleries searching for those responsible for heinous crimes. No one read paintings as confessions. That might be the most eerie part. The idea that something possibly obvious can go unnoticed, until someone looks back. If we look at this slightly differently, the tone changes. Suppose someone had close knowledge of the events, not as the person responsible, but as a witness, perhaps a confidant. Then the repetition in Sickert's work might not be obsession, it could be familiarity. The calmness of his scenes might not be detachment, maybe it's normalization from someone who possibly saw these things firsthand. And maybe if powerful figures were involved, Sickert's silence would make sense. For preservation, reputation, the stability of big institutions. You can see how the same details feel different when it's looked at this way. The story remains unresolved, an unsolved series of incidents, an artist with dark fascinations, a cluster of coincidences that never quite align. Walter Sickert died respected. His work hangs in galleries. The case remains open in theory, closed in practice. The uncomfortable thing isn't whether an artist could have been involved. It's that truth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, in sketches, in things assumed harmless. And once you notice that, it changes how you see the story. Not because you have an answer, but because you realize one could exist without ever being confirmed. That's it for this one. Subscribe for more videos just like this.